never told you, because as a parent, parents are always talking.
Yeah.
And you and your game have thrown those junior parents into fits because we would all sit around and say, where's David in the draw? Where's David in the draw? Why is he, 58 NorCal ranking, but he's coming in. Where is he going to be? Dad and David.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone wanted to know, why isn't David playing all these running around chasing points national tournaments? How does he doesn't even play tournaments.
Yeah.
How does he do it? And
No.
Peter, this.
Yeah.
Parents are in fit trying to figure this puzzle, this mystery out.
Yeah.
As a parent, we'd be sitting there and, Matt's dad is, where's David in the draw? That's all I care about.
Yeah, that was, I don't know. This is the first time I've heard of this, so this is very interesting.
It doesn't come around too, but Mom,
yeah.
Can't sleep. He's got to play David out there.
Oh, he ended up beating me very well. He had a great match against me.
All week he was talking about it. Oh, I got to play David.
I don't know. Well, it's just always like a matter of always trying to improve. Like, it was never about ranking well. I was always just interested in playing up, so, and he was very conflicted as to why I wasn't going to like these national tournaments and like playing as the #1 seed, and like, he described it as having a target on my back and playing with pressure, and I was like, that's a very valuable experience, but at the same time, my goal is not to just win a tournament. No, yeah. It was always to try and improve my game, yeah, so.
And that's Steven, even though we were talking about it, Steven said he believes David is not there to chase points.
No, yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
When you walk into a tournament, you are what you are.
Yeah.
Your points are going to save you.
Yeah.
Points are going to help you, beat your opponent.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why in junior year, I had the opportunity to get to #1 in the nation, but I was kind of like injured a little bit, and I wanted to save myself for Kalamazoo, so I ended up just not playing. It was a little bit regretful because I didn't really play professional tournaments, but I just decided that I want to play like futures instead, men's opens, and really keep improving. So yeah.
And that was your main mindset. I mean,
yeah.
Yeah. You are the top. Look at the top. How does David do it? He's not chasing it all over the country. He's not spending $50,000 a year like we have to spend.
Oh no. We spend quite a bit of money actually still, but yeah, I guess we were very focused. Like, I guess different from like who were like very top in the 16s. I just really wanted to improve my own game. That's what made me most satisfied.
That's the right focus. Steven here with 15 Points of Tennis. Welcome back. So we're very, very fortunate today to have player feature here. David Su played at Stanford, and we just want to actually pick his brain for a little bit, because rarely do we have a player at this caliber to really understand what he did. And just earlier we were talking about, like, you go to any of these junior tournaments, you hear just players, chatting, gossiping, what are the top players doing, to get to the most elite level, and trying to figure it out. And it's so frustrating, right? Because you're just experimenting, and that's the pain that most players go through. So, like, we're gonna hopefully unravel a couple of the secrets, behind the magic here. But before we begin, geez, I could, there's no way I could recite David's resume off the top of my head. So David played, was recruited his junior year to play at Stanford, as we all know. I mean, he has wins over some of the top players at the biggest schools, UCLA, USC. I was there for some of the matches when David came to play USC, my alma mater. Now in juniors, more impressive than I mean, as much as anyone, tennis recruiting year after year, top 10 in his grade year after year. Some of the big tournaments, I know you just about every tournament around here locally, you're in the finals, you're winning it. But Winter Nationals, finalists at Winter Nationals, that's a big deal. backdraw of clay courts. You won that. I mean, some of the smaller things you've done, but you know, still pretty darn impressive.
Thanks.
So, so maybe we can kind of walk it back from, you know, when you first started, and then kind of, you know, look at your journey from the start.
Yeah.
I guess David, when did you like start tennis? How did you get into this? When did you start?
So my dad was always really interested in tennis, and he was always on the court. So I watched him a lot, and I guess I developed my interest in that naturally. And you know, at age 4, I just played with him at the park just for fun, and then finally around 7 or 8, because after I quit soccer, I was a huge ball hog. I decided that tennis was a better idea because I could play individually.
Oh, really? No.
Yeah, I was a huge ball hog, so I decided to try tennis and play competitively, and thankfully I think a little bit of talent helped me along the way, and then combined with hard work, that kind of just, you know, propelled me throughout my whole junior career, basically, and into Stanford.
I see. Oh, for sure. I'm curious though, David. Like, you know, a lot of, you know, kids start. I don't know if your parents like pushed you into like, because for some kids that's the case, right? Parents push them to, you know, compete, right?
Yeah.
And be super. I don't know. When did you fall into like the competition mode very naturally, or was that something like when did that kind of get in your mind? Like, hey, I want to be not only like pretty good, like at the, you know, locally good, but like nationally really great.
I think I was always just very competitive. Like, I always wanted to be the best at whatever I was doing. So just whenever I started, basically, was when I was already very competitive. I didn't really think too much about nationally, but I always hated losing. And I had this love-hate relationship between competing, where, you know, I love the feeling of winning, but, you know, I hate competing because there's always the possibility of losing. But yeah, I was a very competitive player just throughout. So I always wanted to win, and that was basically most of my drive. Yeah.
I mean, it feels good to win, for sure.
It's a great feeling. Can't get enough of it.
I guess it's maybe even more so, like, even beyond that, like a sense of accomplishment, like a sense of like you like truly applying yourself to something and seeing. I mean, I know there's a lot of things built in, right, to like your motivation and.
Yeah, definitely. And, you know, there are obviously times where you're like a 10-year-old or 11-year-old and you're wondering why you're spending your entire summer out on the tennis court, as you may very well know.
Yeah.
And but once you've really committed to something, I think it helps to have, you know, your parents there to kind of remind you. And of course, sometimes it feels like it's kind of like pushing you, but they're there to help you achieve like your original goal. So definitely part of them was also pushing me at some times, but, you know, I'm very grateful for what they've done to, you know, really help me get to this place. Yeah.
I see. Yeah, parents are a big part. I have a couple of questions. Yeah, see some wild parents. Right?
Yeah.
But there's this, the one thing I do. So first time I met you, I know we were talking earlier. Like you, I think you were 12 years old when I first saw you. I think it was just. I think we maybe got put on the same court at a clinic in Santa Clara, and, you know, the guy was feeding. We were hitting angles, and I couldn't hit an angle to save my life. and you were just stroking the ball, just smooth, just in rhythm, balance, just perfect spacing, and you're just the cone, like you're just knocking the cones down. I'm like, oh my god, like, so I mean, at an early age, you know, clearly it seems like you. Whether you're put on a good path or where you figured a lot of things out, like how did even at like a pretty young age, like you get so advanced, like technical wise, like your game get to that point, even at like starting your first 4 or 5 years in tennis? What did that look like?
I see. So a lot of it was honestly, again, back to my parents. A big part of it was based off of like all my parents' hard work. I remember there were times where we just went to a high school. We brought like, you know, like camping chairs and stuff like that. We would sit there for the entire day, like play in the morning, 3 hours, grab Subway, eat there, sit and play for like another 4 hours until it was like dusk. And essentially I'm not sure if you've heard of it, like there's like the 10,000 hour rule. Like if you spend 10,000 hours, you actually get, you know, pretty proficient at something. So I think the beginning was definitely just all that time spent on, just being on the tennis court, hitting balls, really helped me get more of a natural feel for the game, if that makes any sense. And I'm not too sure how many kids were also doing that at such a young age, so I think it helped me kind of move a little bit ahead of all my other peers at that time. But it was a lot of hours on court, basically.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
Because you see some kids, you see some kids that are pretty good at a young age, but you see some kids that are like wow, right? Like,
Yeah.
At a young age, in terms of like their skill set, right?
Yeah.
And for you, and I think this is like the same thing, the same theme, not only like, because you were always more on the smaller side, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Right. And like even at Stanford, I think I saw a picture with you and the Stanford guys. And there are a couple of guys who aren't like super huge, but like you're definitely, if you look at like the skyline, right?
I'm unlike the shorter side, very short.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
So you got to get like really technically good as well. Aside from the hard yards, but how did you in that early phase, because that's like a very crucial like developmental phase, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Like how did you kind of like, where'd you look to even start to gain like the technical skills and really learn and things like that?
So there was this website, I don't know if it's still up and running, it's called tennisplayer.net. Essentially, we decided to pay for a membership, and they have just like archives of slow motion, very high quality HD shots of players at tournaments, and you could go frame by frame through all their strokes. And we have spent countless hours on that website, as well as eventually like YouTube, looking at slow-mo videos of like, Agassi's forehand and backhand, Federer's forehand, Federer's serve, going through countless people's slow motion videos and just breaking it all down and trying to incorporate what we saw. If it works at the pro level, it should work for me, right? I'm just playing locally, so we just, try to mimic Agassi's backhand, take some components of Federer's forehand, his good serve, just try to meld it all together into something that I could really use, basically. So a lot of the time was spent on that, I think, and that was what really pushed me in the right direction. And also, my dad spent a lot of time observing, watching a lot of pro tennis players, and he all the ground strokes, basically all my strokes that you've seen were all built by him.
Oh, no way.
So yeah, I think a lot of watching professional players really helped develop the beginning of my game.
So first of all, I've played some guys with pretty big serves. Some pretty tall guys, right, who are known for serving big.
Right.
They hit these huge flat serves.
Yeah.
But as a guy, you're maybe what, 5'9"?
Like 5'9", yeah, 5'9".
I would say your serve puts as much pressure on me as any player I've played. You can hit all the spots, and you get so much snap on your serve.
Part of the pressure that you talk about is, apart from placing the serve, is really like the baseline game. Like thinking about how to which shot I'm going to hit next after I hit the serve is really crucial. So even like the simple like serve out wide, then go to the other corner, or serve out wide, go behind the guy, is just like simple patterns that I really use to just try to put a lot of pressure on you, just like you said.
Okay, so even less so the serve. Even though you hit a quality serve, you're looking more at like that third ball, the return, and the ball after that. Maybe just subconsciously, whoever you're playing is like expecting that big forehand after the serve, and so maybe the serve feels like it has more pressure on it.
And also just, I don't know, I guess employing like just more common sense, so I'm not giving away like free points on my serve. So on the second serve, trying as much to go to, kicking to the backhand, making as many first serves as I can. It's just really kind of these basic tips that you've like picked up along the way throughout like your tennis career, just really just applying that and like trying to make your service game as consistent and as solid as possible. I think the key part for my serve has been really like definitely the trophy position, as everybody has said. Like I used to get pretty funky with it, but when I toss, I just really try to lean my body in, try to get my momentum leaning forward, and curve my body kind of like a bow, and then make sure that I'm just nice and relaxed and like kind of like loaded in this position. And then I don't think about hitting hard or anything. I think about just really swinging up and like trying to hit the ball up into the sky basically. And I guess all that racket speed of just trying to hit it up naturally just generates all that pace and everything. So it's just really this position, because after that everything just goes. Everything is just gone. So I really like to lean my hip in. A lot of people just toss and stay straight up and down, but with me I like to push my hip in until I feel like this tight kind of stretch on my front hip. And what I think that does is it also positions me a little bit underneath, so I can get more spin on the serve, so I can go for something bigger as well. Somebody used to say was like, I turn quite a bit so that my back is like partially facing that, instead of like a lot of players who just lean like this. So I don't really know if I do it anymore, but this back turn also gets like a lot of like torque, and you can hit like a lot faster, I think. But definitely like the bow portion, where like you have your hip leaning in, I can get underneath the ball for more spin, and it's essentially just trying to build as much like potential energy as possible so I can convert it into like a faster swing, I think. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's really neat. You talk about the bow and the hip, like kind of leading with this hip right here, right?
Yep.
Like I was just watching like some pitching mechanics, like baseball pitchers, and leading with the hip is like a really big thing for pitchers.
We watched a lot of those videos.
Oh no ways! Is that how you picked it up, or
I think
was there like a coach who like was like, David, like this is something you need to add on your serve?
my dad.
Your dad?
My dad watched, like he observed a lot of like tennis players, and he really found that as like a key point in terms of like something I need to focus on for my serve going forward. And also, I remember there's like these old Bollettieri like VHS tapes where they just taught like the basic mechanics of the serve, and I watched that video maybe like 30 times at least.
Oh no way!
At the very least, yeah, because I had a terrible serve. Yeah.
Those are probably back from what like they're tapes, right? So they must have been from like the 90s, early.
Yeah. It was all back then. I've watched them so many times, all the videos.
I mean, I'm sure like the like technique has evolved so much since then, right? We learned so much.
That's true, but I think just some of the basics you just can't stray away from. So just keeping that in mind.
So would you consider your dad as your primary coach?
Yeah, basically. He stuck with me throughout all the different coaches that I had, and basically he was the one who was always making sure that my game was in shape, what was very important for me to focus on and everything, making sure I wasn't falling away too far from the path that we had envisioned for me to kind of follow, basically. So he was a huge role. And your dad
obviously played tennis too, right?
Yeah.
He didn't compete much. What level?
So he did play. He did play competitively. He picked up the sport in college, and he really grew to love it. And so he found himself like spending a lot of time on the court experimenting by himself, and he eventually was playing in like league tennis as well and playing competitively. And I think his love for the game really helped like develop mine. Yeah.
I see. Yeah, it's when I can tell when you're out here, you truly enjoy it, right? Like,
yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Like you're always smiling and everything like that, And I actually think, well, correct me if I'm wrong, but some kids maybe get the wrong idea about tennis, or just like let's say if they win a match, like that's like the ultimate like happiness for them or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
And they miss like that process.
Yeah.
And when you see them on the court, they look like they're in pure agony when they're playing, right?
Yeah, and some parents as well. Yeah.
It's like and their parents too, right? Like tennis parents. Most of them look like they're in pure agony.
Yeah.
They look like they're more than likely they're in agony, right?
Definitely.
The kid looks like it's like, man, if I miss a shot, someone's gonna punish me after.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think that, correct me if I'm wrong. I think that mindset, like when you're out there, like you're just so appreciative of the game and you just didn't purely enjoy just playing.
Yeah.
Like that also helped you play much better, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
Yeah. So I think a lot of people have the wrong idea that tennis is just really focused on the wins and losses. Obviously, like you see a lot of parents, like you mentioned, and kids just too focused on whether or not they've won a certain point, how many forehands they've hit as like winners and stuff. But I think a big part of it was generally enjoying, like you said, enjoying the process, and also remembering that my goal was to just continue to get better. So it was never really like the tournament wins, like match wins, all came along with just trying to get better, but it was never really about what ranking I got to. It was just all about, okay, I played really well today, I feel very satisfied. And it was good to have my parents reinforce that, and for me to also have that mindset as well, because when you play well, when you're hitting well, I'm sure everybody knows you feel amazing. And I just wanted to keep getting better and keep having like those days where I was just playing amazing, and that was kind of my approach to it.
I see. I mean, a very long-term approach, right?
Yeah, definitely. Just not focused on like, oh, I need to play as much as I can in this age group to reach #1. It was just like, okay, I think I would need to move up to the next age group or play these tournaments in order to help me really develop and go further.
I see. No, that makes sense. I think, yeah, it's a very long-term approach. I think a lot of players do get caught in the short-term approach, like thinking that the next tournament or they're ranking in 12s or 14s or 16s and they'll be all right. And then, they're half dead by the time they or what have you. But like, I don't know. I know at some point, like you just started playing. I know we talked like when you're younger, you didn't know exactly at what level you wanted to compete at. Obviously, you ended up competing at like being one of the top players in the U.S. and playing at one of the best colleges you could play at.
Yeah.
Right. But at some point, and we're thinking like long-term plan here. Was there like a plan to say like, David, okay, you're 12, 14. I can tell you enjoy it. You have a lot of potential to play at a super high level.
Yeah.
Was there a plan, okay, like part of that long-term plan, like to get you playing at like a top university? Was it planned out, I guess?
I think it was more, we wanted to play professionally. Like we were trying to play professionally. Like my own personal goal at the beginning was definitely to try and play, like be a top 10 player at least. I wanted to be #1. I wanted to be just like Roger. And so that was always the goal. Even going into university, I think I wasn't quite at the stage where I could just go in and play on the pro tour immediately. So I think I wanted to have kind of like that stepping stone at a top tennis program, and just try and develop my game to a point where it would be good for me to move on to the pro tour, because it's quite expensive to travel, and if you're not in the top 150, you're not making any money. You're just losing money. Yeah. So we wanted to develop my game a little bit, and it doesn't hurt to also have like education to fall back on. So that was but the primary goal was definitely to play professionally.
I see.
Yeah.
So kind of now, like getting back to like your development, like as a junior player, right? I know he's like, if like your dad was like the primary coach, and I guess you and your dad seemed like you were like on the same page the whole time through, right?
Yeah.
It's not like, I know some, the kid wants this, but the parent wants this. And it's like this clash, right?
Yeah.
I guess my question for you is, like, no one can truly figure it out and do it all on their own, right? You need X amount of people to help you. You need, I guess, a team around you, right?
Yeah. Definitely.
Especially, there's so many parts to tennis.
Yeah.
There's technique, there's fitness, there's training. I guess, you've had a series of coaches. You don't necessarily have to like say the names per se, but let's say when you were younger, maybe if you could walk through maybe the earlier in your career, the coaches you work with, the types of coaches you work with, what you were looking for, and like even an outside coach, the people you surrounded yourself with. Then I know later you kind of did more like strengthening and training and stuff, but maybe we can start with like the early years, like what you look for in a coach, that type of thing. How you selected a coach, because I think that's maybe one of the biggest, even for parents who aren't like as involved as much.
Yeah.
That selecting the coach is maybe one of the biggest decisions a player makes, like early in their career, right? Who they work with.
Yeah. So I have a very long list of coaches. I was a brat back in the day, so it was just like kind of like 1 year and move on, another year and move on. So, but generally, also at the end of each year, I felt like I had picked up mainly what each coach had to teach me. So there was not really too much to do in terms of like staying and not much to gain. So basically, at the beginning, it was very focused on just very basic mechanics, like making sure you bend your knee, getting in position behind the ball, just focusing on making sure that my strokes were all correct. And then slowly as I got older, maybe around 12 or 13, like I think I had very solid strokes at that time, but I was moving very terribly. So we really started focusing on footwork, more of the fitness aspect, no lifting weights or anything, but just trying to get better footwork down so that I could move properly.
And obviously it changed in the different phases of your development. Yeah. But like, what do you look for a coach? I'm also curious to know. Maybe this is stacking too many questions. But like, I'm also curious to know when you realize like you needed to move on. Well, first it's like how do you pick your coaches? Because there's like literally hundreds of coaches.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
Like everywhere, right?
Yeah.
And then sometimes they're right for another player, not right for you. Like, how do you pick your coach? And then how do you know when to move on as well?
So basically, picking a coach was always just kind of looking at, the players that he's worked with, his resume as in terms of like, oh, I helped this player get to this point and whatnot. And also watching the coach play, watching the coach do his job, coach. And seeing that, he's like, hey, I think he could really help me out with this aspect because I think he does this very well, was a big part in choosing coaches. But then also when to move on is also a very good question. Basically, after a year, it just felt very repetitive. Like there's only so much each coach can really teach you, and once you feel like you're hearing the same thing over and over again, it was at that point we're like, okay, maybe we should try and look and move on. Obviously, just very grateful for what each coach has done, but definitely in selfish terms, trying to improve my own game was, okay, we need to look at something else that I can improve on. So, yeah, that was definitely how we approached kind of the coaching situation, but yeah.
I see. That's one of the toughest things for, I think, a lot of players, for sure.
Yeah, it's hard to like move on from
you get
having
stuck with one coach and then you're gonna like have a relationship with one coach, right?
Yeah, and I think it's just like it's okay to be a little bit selfish at sometimes. Like definitely you can be very grateful for what a coach has taught you and has helped you grow, but at the same time, for your own career, I think it's okay to try and look somewhere else so that you yourself can get better, right? So I think that's a really important point.
I mean, it's your own tennis. Yeah,
it's your own tennis, right?
Yeah,
and you're paying for it as well, right?
Yeah, you're paying, exactly.
So
at the end of the day, right? It's on your shoulders, right?
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
I think you kind of have that approach. Like it's you're not even relying on any one coach or this or that to get you.
Right.
It's like coaches can add different. Maybe I'm getting this wrong, but like architecting your game, coaches can add different pieces to to the pie, but at some point you have to look to bring this whole thing together.
Yeah, definitely. And there's even like points where I worked with one coach particularly for like fitness and footwork. At the same time, I worked with this other coach maybe for more of like technique on my serve or on like slices or something of the sort. So there was also just like working with different coaches on different aspects. So yeah. Okay,
I mean, this next one, I mean, it is kind of on that same topic. It's more kind of nitty-gritty kind of question. But obviously as a junior player, high school, sophomore year, junior, you get, more workload as well.
Yeah.
And then we were talking about managing your game and this and that, right? It's like,
well,
it's good. It's like you're running a whole company, right? You have this and this, and it's like, I mean, it really does take a lot of skills to manage it, right?
Yeah.
What did your week actually look like? Like for some kids, if you're homeschooled, it's like, okay, that's all you have to manage, right? But this is like your time is super, super valuable.
Yeah.
Like every hour counts, right? Probably you're probably, I know with, you know, with some students, right, we map out their week, like how many hours do you have for tennis, right? Kind of
Yeah.
thing. But for you, maybe you can break it down in like the early phase versus the late phase, because like early phase when you're younger, maybe you had like more private lessons and stuff. But maybe could you say like how many hours of like lessons you did versus hitting with hitting with buddies versus, you know, training in like the early years versus like the later years?
Yeah, so at the beginning with, you know, a very heavy course load of maybe 2 hours of homework a week in like, you know, elementary school and middle school, it was mainly just, yeah, going to every day maybe like 2 hours or so, 3 hours at the very most, but 2 hours or 3 hours of like, you know, going to like group lessons every week, maybe getting like one private lesson. So yeah, weekdays would be like 2 to 3 hours of like playing with the group, and then weekends would be working with my dad or getting a private lesson generally. And then as we sort of transitioned into high school, heavier course load, I played less, so probably like an hour and a half to 2 hours. And then some days maybe do some maybe I'll go running on my own for like an hour, or go get some strength training for for like another hour. And we just try to make everything as efficient as possible, because I was not homeschooled and I also wasn't at an academy, so basically I really had to manage my time. So it was like after school, go directly to tennis, work out, and then eat, homework for the rest of the night, go to bed, go to school, rinse and repeat.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was basically that. Not too much of a life outside of tennis.
Tennis and
unfortunately.
school,
Yeah,
obviously.
tennis and school. But that was pretty much how we did it. And you know, as I'm sure you know, the weekends was also a lot of tournaments basically. But that's how it kind of panned out. So not too much tennis in comparison to like what they're doing at academies. Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, kind of going back on that last point, would you say you had a lot more private lessons like earlier than later, and then like in terms of like private lesson ratio to like group like clinic ratio, right? Because training clinic.
Actually, I think what really helped me later on, I think I might have had more private lessons at the beginning, and then towards later on, I actually just played a lot of practice matches, and then I think because my dad was also my coach, I got to work with him. So, but definitely more focused on match play towards the like latter stage of my junior career, and trying to basically incorporate what I've been learning in private lessons into match play, and that I think that really helped me improve quite a bit. Playing older kids who were, which I'm thankful enough to have access to, and they were also not kind enough to play with me, really helped me improve a lot. So not too much private lessons towards the latter stage.
But I guess at that point, I mean, you built such an amazing all-around skill set. Like I see some like a lot of players just out here hitting balls after balls, playing matches all summer.
Yeah.
But like if you don't have the skills to really hone and practice, like what's the point, right? Go get the skills first.
Yeah.
I mean,
Coming back to it,
see.
My dad and my mom, they spend a lot of time on the weekends, like, you know, in the mornings, at least like 2 hours, just like dedicated to just like honing, like working on each aspect of my game. So that might count as a private lesson, I think, but a lot of time by them, just trying to nail down each detail. Yeah.
Talking about like hitting huge, and I'll also link that video in this one, but I think you've hit maybe one of the world's hardest forehands. This like recurring theme, right? Is in Washington.
Yeah.
That's it, Papa Sue!
I know the conditions being indoors might have helped a little bit, right?
Yeah,
you just
definitely.
saw it perfect.
Yeah.
And you took this huge backswing. So when did you learn how to do or incorporate like the big backswing per se? Because I know you wind up like quite a bit here. Like most players kind of just keep the arm to this one side, but you really load it up. I mean, I don't know how did that kind of develop for you?
It was a very big problem actually in the beginning of my career. Like everybody was always saying like your backswing is too big, like you need to like make sure it's smaller so you can get underneath the ball more, so you can get more spin. I had a really hard time because it just felt very natural to me, and I always just wanted to really, like I said, just like the serve, I really wanted to load on my forehand, so I guess that's where my big take back comes from. And over the years, I think I've just gotten used to having such a big backswing that it's usually not a problem anymore. Yeah. On the returns, actually, I try to keep like a shorter backswing because it's coming so fast, but I guess sometimes it just naturally comes out and I just take a bigger backswing, but I just try to prepare as early as I can, definitely, and just get my shoulders turned before the ball gets over the net in general.
I see. You don't have any any issues timing that. I mean, it doesn't seem like it, or maybe you've just been like doing that your whole life, like, or I don't know, like 'cause the ball comes fast. I know a lot of coaches will say, like also the older you get, right? You start to shorten the backswing, shorten the backswing,
Yeah.
shorten the backswing.
Yeah.
Balls are coming faster, right?
Yeah.
Like I know it just.
I think it comes down to a matter of just being aware of what kind of ball is coming towards me. So I think some of the shots that are just really coming hard and fast to the baseline, like right on top of the baseline, I'll consciously make an effort just to shorten my backswing and just get the ball back over the net. Also on the returns, like I mentioned, I'll try to keep it shorter, but then over these like 10, 12 years, I've just focused on getting the early preparation so that I'm not late. That's been the biggest key for me. Yeah.
So it sounds like you had a pretty normal life. Like, I don't know if a lot of people you were playing, right? Like, I feel like you got a very abnormal result doing like very like normal things, like playing an hour and a half a day, playing 2 hours, maybe going running. I mean, I know you had a lot of great people around you too, right? Like
Yeah.
Like and you had structure, and your dad did a great job also, right?
Yeah.
Because it's easy to kind of fall off that path and kind of get lazy or complacent, that type of thing. But I think you did get an amazing result doing what sounds like more realistic things for like an average person to do, right? You didn't homeschool.
Yeah.
You didn't do. No one's like shipped you away to some academy around the world, right? Kind of thing. Do you feel like going through this process, like you knew things, or that other people didn't? I guess I don't know if that's a good question.
I definitely. Yeah.
Like other people were, like maybe did you see like other like peers and things like man, people are just kind of going about this wrong, or like inefficiently, or wasting their time?
I think it definitely came back to that, like in part like the kind of like not focusing on the process or like the long-term goal of just getting better, but also just focusing on winning. That was also definitely the wrong mindset. But overall, I think it was just trying to be, I don't know, as efficient as possible, and really just going into every practice like, okay, I only have like 2 hours. Like, I really got to make my time like as productive as possible. And so I think a lot of people who spend more time on court are like, I have like 3 more hours left. I can take this hour off and just relax. But I think for me, just to always be like kind of like locked in for the entire time allowed me to kind of pursue that like 1.5 hour, 2 hour practice kind of regimen. But again, it's different for every person. I know like practicing for 4 hours a day or more definitely doesn't work for me. Yeah, it's really painful and kind of not productive, but what worked for me may not work for somebody else, but to each their own.
I see, that makes sense. I'm guessing people they're just different people, mental wiring, what have you, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Some people might like the longer kind of practice.
Yeah.
But you had more of like the sprinter's mentality. Like, I'm going to come out here, go super duper hard for 2 hours, and then, you know.
And I had not much of a choice in terms of
That's true.
academics.
Yeah, maybe that was the best thing. It forced you to learn how to do that, right?
It was good. I think with that, I think I developed pretty good time management skills, as all tennis players who are not homeschooled, I think, may know. And also just like how to prioritize certain stuff and basically procrastinate in an effective manner. I guess that's one way of putting it, I guess.
I see. It's like, yeah, I mean, a lot of times we don't do things until like truly pressure is applied on us, right? You know, you got to get things done. You got things done, right? I don't know. It's a weird human psychology, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, a lot of juniors are banging the tournaments every single weekend.
Yeah.
Playing every week. A lot of people kind of have this notion in their mind. I've heard a lot of things like you got to play tournaments for to get practice. I mean, I think, or you gotta play tournaments or else your mental game is gonna go down the tank. Or, I mean, there's just a lot of different weird misconceptions about what like playing a lot of tournaments gives you, because like you see some people, they have these win-loss records like I remember this one girl, she was like, you know, 5 and like 26, and then she had this coach who just kept telling her, play, just get out there, keep playing, like don't worry about failing. I mean, I guess in one sense to be, you know, resilient to like, you know, the taking beatdowns, right? Essentially, that's not. I don't know if that's good for your psychology long term, but like, I don't know. What was there like a rationale to maybe playing less or playing very selective, because you played very few tournaments. You didn't.
True.
You didn't like, you know, go up and down California every weekend, right?
I mean, tournaments are definitely where you improve. You learn the most about yourself, right? It's like the actual kind of test, but I think it's kind of demoralizing if you just kind of go to every tournament and kind of lose.
Oh yeah.
It's also very expensive. Tournament fees in general. I think that the biggest thing was just to practice like if it was a tournament, like to be very, like I said, to be very focused. That helped me translate really well into kind of like not needing to play as much, as many tournaments, and then also playing in that mindset helped me improve a lot in practice. So I didn't need to play as many tournaments, I think, as the average player, and that just kind of to go into, I don't know, at least get a ranking or something, you know, so I could move up to the next kind of age group. So I think that was a big part of it. And then, I don't know, I think that also kind of compounded the effect. So playing less tournaments added more pressure that I had to really do well. So I think maybe in comparison to other players that I was playing against, I was a little bit more like, I really need to win. Kind of feeling. So yeah, especially when I went to national tournaments and you're spending thousands of dollars on flights, hotels, and, you know, rental cars, that was quite a bit of pressure. And while I didn't really enjoy it, or I didn't really enjoy the pressure too much, I think it was very beneficial. So,
you know, I also remember like I think just chatting with your mom like many years ago, this stuck with me. Like, she didn't like to drive.
Yeah.
So I always kind of had this idea in my head, like when you were playing, because you played far fewer tournaments, and I don't think you would have necessarily played fewer tournaments if you thought it would like hinder your development like in a big way, right? Mm-hmm. Like, so clearly, like, you know, you're doing all the right things, like, and you had a very long-term approach. Yeah. But to me, it seemed like you always felt like it was like a privilege to play a tournament, whereas like some people kind of take it for granted. You see some people even like have bad attitude on court kind of thing, like not like appreciate the moment. To me, it all like watching you, it all seems like you're very like I mean, it's kind of hard to say, like it's kind of like, it sounds kind of foo-foo, right? But like like when you, well, like just talking to you, like when you did play, it all sounded like you were very appreciative, like you saw it as like a privilege kind of thing.
Yeah.
Was that kind of the thing?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like just being able to play the sport is a huge privilege. I know a lot of players don't have the same kind of opportunities that I had. So I think every time I stepped out on court just to practice or for a tournament, I think I was very appreciative of like all the chances and all the opportunities that had been given to me, and I think that in part helped develop my mindset. So yeah, not all, there's different, I've met a lot of different players, who, may not have been as fortunate as I have, and I think that altogether really led me to just appreciate being able to play tennis, and not just in terms of, I guess financial concerns, as a lot of people may think of when they first think about this topic, but also in terms of just having a really healthy body, like some people, play until a certain point and they're like, oh, they come up with something, like I think it was Marty Fish, I think it was Venus Williams or Serena, you find out at that stage that you have some sort of like health condition or something. And yeah, so hearing that is just like, wow, I'm very fortunate to be healthy enough to just compete and, practice. So yeah. Very happy to play.
We've all seen David hit beautiful strokes, but one thing that takes his game to the next level is his aggressive mindset. If you leave one ball short or hanging, he punishes the ball. He's very aware of if you're off balance or don't recover, and takes advantage right away. There are no second chances. What adds to that pressure is David is extremely patient on attacking. It's not just one ball with David. He can hit 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 consecutive balls that apply pressure, and he continues to apply that pressure. He doesn't rush, and that's what makes him extremely balanced in the sense he can put balls away and grind for a bit if he needs to. Then you start to try to force the action, and he's going to punish you. Now, the last thing that's not captured by the highlights of him hitting big forehands is a variety. It's strange playing David. You never see the exact same look. He'll fire a ball hard randomly and just catch you off balance and have that element of surprise all the time. So we talked about kind of how you got like super good, right? And then now it's got kind of like transitioning to the college game, I guess. A lot of players, I feel like, not a lot, some do great in juniors, but they fall short in college, or they plateau. Their game stops developing. Like, I don't know if like people are like familiar with the whole UTR thing. Maybe like a lot of the good freshmen come in at like high 12s, low 13, even for D1. On a good D1 school, the coach is hoping to get them to maybe like a 14, maybe mid 14. Obviously that high 14 is like low pro level, 15 maybe low pro level, right? But like to go from how did you, I guess, think about not plateauing, like even at that stage, or did things change, or was it just like the same thing but like on overdrive? You just work harder.
I think a plateau. Yeah, I think a lot of people go to college, they don't have their original support team around, so it's very easy to kind of lose track of what your original kind of goal, or maybe not even your original goal, but maybe how you approached things. So I know that happened a little bit for me, but I think that's what contributes a lot to the plateauing that you're mentioning. And with different coaching style, you're going to have the same coach for 4 years, right? You're basically practicing with the same guys for a majority of the same guys for 4 years, right? You're not getting too much exposure apart from playing other players from different schools. So I think that contributes a lot to plateauing, but maybe just trying to reach out to your team. That's what I think is helpful in just trying to progress your own game forward. And while your college coach may have a particular coaching style, just staying true to what has really gotten you to the collegiate tennis will definitely help you continue to improve throughout these 4 years. So Yeah, definitely a big problem though, as you mentioned.
Yeah, that makes sense. Now, I mean, playing at Stanford. I mean, that's probably for like 99.9% of like junior competitive tennis players. Like that's like the dream, right? Kind of thing, right? Like and that's an amazing accomplishment, right? But I guess was it kind of what you expected? Like I don't know what expectations you had going in. Maybe everyone kind of has a different idea, and maybe some people it wasn't like the whole fairy tale thing, or like like the epitome of like a successful junior career kind of thing, right? But I don't know. I don't know if that was like.
Yeah, growing up in the Bay Area, I got to see some Stanford matches, and they have like incredible championship history. A great tennis program, and I think apart from playing professionally, it was also kind of in part my dream to also kind of play there and develop my game if I wasn't able to go directly to professional tennis. And so being able to play there was definitely, like in part kind of like a dream come true. It was great, and to be close to where my family is was also a big plus. So I mean, I really enjoyed my time at Stanford. It was really great.
Kind of end on this one. I think this might be the most important thing maybe to take away from, I guess, even just tennis as a whole, right? Like, I guess, just the values of all. I mean, I'm sure it's like not like one thing you've learned from tennis, but just a series of just values, lessons, things. But how is like, I guess your just experience in tennis? We can talk a little bit about like just transcended to the rest of your life and how you even, you're going to your next career type of thing.
Yeah.
And I'm sure like the same principles of success and being a great player, right, will obviously transcend to whatever you're doing next.
I think the biggest lesson, apart from obviously developing like skills like like time management and kind of prioritization, I think definitely this kind of idea that if you work hard, you can really achieve anything that you want. So I think that lesson has kind of been ingrained into me. So even when I approach, I guess, really unfamiliar kind of, I don't know, topics or areas, or, coming from, playing very well from tennis, going to something completely different, I at least have this kind of belief that if I work hard enough and, dedicate myself to it, I think I can really succeed in that new area. So I think that tennis has also been really great in developing that mindset for me and all my future endeavors, and as well as my past endeavors as well. So
that's really fantastic. And I'm sure next career as a going to med school.
Yeah,
that's
trying to go to med school.
That's not an easy path, but whatever is tough. It's going to be rewarding at the same time for sure. So
we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. Anyways, well, David, appreciate you taking the time, sharing your knowledge, helping this next generation of aspiring players and on their journey. Hopefully, you guys can take a few golden nuggets right from this. Even if you're not, obviously, few people are playing at David's level, but again, if you're incorporating the same principles into your tennis, right, you're going to do. If you even do half as well, you're going to get a great result. All right, so. Well, peace out. I'll see you guys next time.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for,
yeah. Thanks so much.
Appreciate it. Really appreciate it.